Should church and state be separate? And it's by your boy Redeem Zoomer. I feel like I've been watching a few of these recently, but I guess it's because instead of making like nerdy, here I'll show you. Instead of making like nerdy, is Presbyterianism really good? And he does do that. Understanding Lutheranism, Denominations Explained. 6 people are waiting for this video. Very excited. Sometimes he actually makes content that I'm like, I'll click on that. When I see it in my trash pile in the Discord. The official Discord, by the way, that I should discuss right now. Hey, join the official Discord. You, right there. Join the official Discord unless you don't want to. But I'd like to see you. We're around there every once in a while. We do some things. The Discord link is in the chat right now. And also, I'm sure this will be a YouTube video. You too, YouTuber. I don't talk to you enough, YouTube enjoyer. Come on over to the live stream sometime and get yourself a nice cold sip of the weird shit. Don't call it weird shit. Don't sip the weird shit. The weird stuff, the weird juice. Have some juice with us in the stream, the live stream. There you go. There's a little taste of what you can expect. Should church and state be separate? Yes, by the way. In fact, I'm kind of both, and I'm anti both state and church in like theory, right? But in practice, since they both already exist, yeah, keep them separate.
Hey guys, welcome back to Kingdom Craft, where we build churches in Minecraft while talking about Christianity, and today I'm talking about the
Is this true? Zealous writes, I went to seminary and learned Hebrew. I assume this is true. I don't know why you'd lie to me. This is very cool of you, though. I went to seminary and learned Hebrew, coin Greek, studied treatises of so many different theologians, and this guy is exactly who my professors warned me about. That's crazy. That's super cool. Is that why you're called Zealous? Coin Greek, dude. Do you know how many fucking Bible nerds I have talked to who's like, have you read it in the original Coin Greek? And it's like, I've read translations, actually. And so have most Americans, which is why that's what I'm critiquing. Have you read it in Coin Greek? Hey, man, are you from fucking Judea? No. You're from fucking Sheboygan, Michigan.
Traditional...
No, you're not. Probably not.
Presbyterian view of church and state. So normally when we hear about separation of church and state, we think it means that the country, the government, should be secular. But
that's correct. But it's not just what that means. It means that the government... It literally... Well, okay, look, hey. I don't want to alarm you, but I have a well-used... The corner is ripped. I have a well-used, written-in... tanning, like the bindings falling apart. This is a Constitution and a Declaration of the Independence of the United States of America. Okay, it's the Declaration of Independence right there. Yeah, I'm just saying. I have, I got the real deal going on right now. Okay, yeah, okay. So we need to talk about the Establishment Clause, I guess. We'll let him talk for a second while I find it, but we'll read it.
That's not how the traditional Presbyterians saw it. That was not the view of the Presbyterian Westminster divines, meaning the people who...
I'm fucking shocked the Presbyterians didn't... They looked at something and went, that's not about us. We should make it about us. The Presbyterians, not well known for being all about themselves.
Who wrote the Westminster Confession. They believed that the church and state should be separate institutions. They believed in the separation of church and state, but they believed both church and state should be Christian. They believed in what's called classical two kingdoms theology, that Christ rules over both the church and the state, both the church...
Okay, well, that's fucking dumb, bro. That's not a separation of church and state. Christ doesn't rule over that because he's not real. Amendment number 1, which is the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peaceably assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. By the way, this petition the government for a redress of grievances, they really don't like us doing that, do they? They really don't like us being like, hey, no, we should do something different. So, they don't really stand by a lot of this. And obviously, the Christian church has infiltrated every level of government for decades. So it's like, since its inception, really, it's quite pernicious and evil, and we shouldn't allow it. We shouldn't allow it in, like, the public space. You can do it privately. I don't care. I mean, they should just not be public. But they are, though, right? Like, they're allowed to have tax exemption and shit. It's fucking crazy. It should just be taxed like normal. It's a business. It's quite literally no different than a fucking fortune teller. I mean, it's worse than a fortune teller because it's a success and they harm a lot more people.
And state were established by God for the furthering of his kingdom.
That's fucking dumb as shit. The American state was established by God to further his kingdom on a marble in the universe? Why? What? Why does God need a kingdom? What the fuck? This isn't Civ 6. What?
But God rules over church and state in distinct ways. So that means both the church and state should be Christian and should submit to God. And the Presbyterian scholastics who wrote the Westminster Confession, they were called Covenanters. Why? Because they believed that their nation, which was Scotland, should have a covenant with God. Just the way the church has a covenant with God, which is the covenant of grace, they believed the state should also have a covenant with God.
What does that even fucking mean? Like literally you want them to have on the books, this state hereby agrees to listen to God. You know what I mean? Like, is that what you mean? Is that really what you, like a covenant to God? Is that what you want?
So, they believe in separation of church and state, just like modern Americans do, at least they think they do. But they still believe the church and state should be Christian.
This guy sucks at Minecraft. Every time we watch him, I just watch him struggle.
They still believed we should have a Christian nation. Now, I know these days there's a lot of talk about Christian nationalism, and I did a video on that. My views have slightly changed since then, my views on the topic of Christian nationalism.
Are you more pro-fucking Christian nationalism than ever?
I think whether or not we should believe in Christian nationalism depends on how you define that term, because there are some people who believe in what's called theonomy. Theonomy says that the Old Testament legal laws should be the governing laws of countries today. And I wouldn't necessarily believe in that, because John Calvin was definitely against theonomy. Basically, traditional Reformed theology...
Because John Calvin was against it? Because it's an anti-Calvinist position is why you wouldn't want a theonomy situation? That's it? It's the whole thing?
Divides the Old Testament Mosaic law into three categories: moral, ceremonial, and legal. All of us agree that the moral law still applies to us today. The Ten Commandments still apply to us today.
No, they don't. No, they fucking don't. This is a great image. This will help everybody because it has pictures. This will help me, a non-believer. That's for sure. You shall have no other gods before me. I don't have any gods at all, so I violate the first commandment. And obviously, we don't, like, literally allowing any other worship in the country violates the first commandment. And so, you know, yeah. So this is dumb. You shall make no idols. Have you seen the fucking Republican National Convention? You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain. Like, so if I say God damn it, I'm cooked. Like, constitutionally, like the law says I can't say God damn it. Keep the Sabbath day holy. Sunday night football, dog? You fucking for real? Sunday is the day for the boys, and we watch football from sun up to sundown, my friend. Okay? Honor your father and mother. Why are you attacking Social Security and shit? You know what I'm saying? Like, you shall not murder unless they're fucking, Palestinians. Then it's totally fine. You shall not commit adultery unless you're running for president. That's fine. You shall not steal unless you're running for president. Then it's fine. You shall not bear false witness against your neighbor unless you're running for president. You shall not covet unless you're president. Anyway, so this is all whack, man. It's all whack shit.
Stealing doesn't become okay just because we're in the New Covenant now. The New Covenant is a continuation of the Old Covenant. That's what all traditional Reformed theology believes. All of us also agree that the ceremonial law is not binding on us today. We don't need to have all those dietary restrictions of the Old Testament. We don't need to be careful about wearing mixed fibers. Not because the ceremonial law has stopped existing, it's because it's been fulfilled by Christ. Because Christ is our high priest who intercedes for us in heaven, so we don't need a priest here on earth to intercede on us for the Father. Intercede for us on the Father.
What kind of fucking nonsense gobbledygook is this? So if Jesus never got fucking killed, you would have to be very careful about wearing mixed fibers right now, is what you're saying to me? Because, of course, God is only strong enough to allow the reversal of original sin through human sacrifice? Why does he jump to the obvious fall damage pit while he's going to go in here and do some mining and crafting?
Intercede for us before the Father. Sorry. It's late when I'm recording this. So, we both agree that the moral law is binding on us. We both agree that ceremonial law is not. Where we disagree is the legal law. Does the legal law apply to Christians today? And traditionally, Reformed theology has said no. John Calvin clearly said no. Theonomists are these people who say that it is, but that's not the traditional Reformed view. So when we're
why did the music start?
Talking about having a Christian nation, when we're talking about covenanting with God as a nation, when we're talking about nations collectively submitting to God, that doesn't necessarily mean theonomy. The Westminster Divines were not theonomists. So I reject Christian nationalism if it's identical with theonomy, but if by Christian nationalism all you mean is we should have a Christian nation, then absolutely.
Yeah, it's fucking dumb. I disagree. I would love to talk to you about this, but you're a fucking punk, man. I don't know why. He's such a worm. He says such shitty shit on on Twitter. Such shitty poo-poo shit all the time. And he, sometimes he'll engage or whatever, but it's just like, it's so misguided and wrong.
The Reformed view of evangelism is that we should evangelize nations collectively, whereas the Methodist view of evangelism is we should just evangelize
He literally digs straight down until he sees something he wants to mine. Fascinating.
Individuals in nations.
He didn't have any friends. Like, he's prime Minecraft age, and he didn't have any friends to play with.
Now, obviously, people are going to say, oh, we should do both. Yeah, of course, everyone knows we should do both. But what should we primarily focus on? Methodists, and by the way, I respect Methodists, but we do disagree on this issue. You should read R.B. Kuyper's book, not the same as Abraham Kuyper. He was a Christian Reformed minister.
What denomination? He's Presbyterian, I think. I think he's been making content about that. I don't have to go look. I was gonna go look at his channel. He has something where he's been talking about well, I've decided on this specific denomination. He's just a nerd. It's like if he would have gotten really into Zoids or something, he'd be off doing that,
Reformed view
Instead
of evangelism
he read fucking John Calvin, apparently.
Is that nations are collective units. And because of American individualism, we often don't think that. We often think of nations as just collections of individuals who happen to agree on having the same laws. But that is not the traditional Reformed view of nations. The traditional Reformed view of nations is that nations sort of function as a collective organism, and that nations can be
This is for real.
Collectively righteous or unrighteous. Read the Old Testament. The Old Testament talks a lot about nations being collectively righteous or unrighteous. So that means nations can collectively submit or not submit to God. And God calls all nations to submit to him. So that means we should have Christian nations.
No, I reject it. There you go. That's it. I simply reject it. Your religion is wrong. How can you make that? This is your argument? This is so dumb.
And the traditional Presbyterian view of
he talks fast enough. I don't really want to speed him up, but I want it to be over.
Is that the church and state are separate institutions, but the church should still be Christian and the state should still be Christian.
Yeah.
Now, because they're separate, we don't believe that state should tell the church what to do, nor should the state impose bishops on the church. That's why the Presbyterian Covenanters rejected what's called prelacy. Prelacy is where you have bishops ruling over the church, like a more monarchical form of church government. And one of the reasons prelacy was rejected is it's often connected to...
Monarchical? Does he mean monarchical? Like a monarchy? Is that a word? Monarchical. Yeah, but this wouldn't... How would this have a monarchy? No, that's monarchical, like I was saying. Monarchical? Is that a word? Monarchical? No, it's not. He must have just misspoke. But that doesn't mean that, though. Okay. All right.
Erastianism.
Prelacy? Well, there was that. But then he said, government of Christian church by clerics of high social rank and power, the officer or rank of prelate. What's an example of a prelacy that has existed? The Armenian prelacy? Oh, just like churches and stuff. Not like an actual government. So, like their internal government? Cool. Very cute. Prelacy?
Which is where the king rules over the church and tells the church what to do. And we reject that, because we obviously know that the government is always going to be corrupt, and if you give the government power over the state, it's going to corrupt the state. I'm sorry, if you give the government power over the church, it's going to corrupt the church.
I actually think it's totally... I think the church corrupts the state most, but
So, the Founding Fathers of America were obviously not monarchists, so they rejected Erastianism. And a lot of the Founding Fathers were Episcopalians, so they believed in Prelacy. But even so, the Founding Fathers of America did not want...
If you're Episcopalian, you have to believe in Prelacy? Wow.
...a secular government. That's modern public school.
Do they even talk about that shit in Episcopalian churches? Prelacy? The music? Oh yeah, he's been on a Christian music thing lately. I want to shove this weenie in a hardline Christian theocracy, then ask him if he still wants a religious state after a year or two. I think because they give him a sanctioned wife, he would be down.
Propaganda that the Founding Fathers of America...
Yeah, I don't think a normal Episcopalian actually thinks about this shit at all. At all.
Wanted to create a secular nation with a secular government. The phrase separation of church and state doesn't even appear in the Constitution. It's just from a letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote once.
Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptists. To Messrs. Nehemiah Dodge, Ephraim Robbins, and Stephen S. Nelson, Committee to the Danbury Baptist Association in the state of Connecticut. Gentlemen, the affectionate sentiments of esteem and approbation which you are so good as to express toward me on behalf of the Danbury Baptist Association give me the highest satisfaction. My duties dictate a faithful and zealous pursuit of the interests of my constituents, and in proportion as they are persuaded of my fidelity to those duties, the discharge of them becomes more and more pleasing. Ooh, shit. Damn. Believing with you that religion is a matter which lies solely between man and his God, that he owes account to none other for his faith or his worship, that the legitimate powers of government reach actions only and not opinions, I contemplate with sovereign reverence the act of the whole American people which declared that their legislature should make no law respecting an establishment of religion and prohibiting the free exercise thereof, thus building a wall of separation between church and state. Yeah, I mean, literally he says thus. Like, what? What do you mean just that he wrote, bro? Huh? How can you say that? He literally says the thing and then says thus. It's a wall of separation between church and state. Like it's that's not, you couldn't interpret that literally any other way. I didn't realize, like, I haven't read the Jefferson's letter to the Danbury Baptist since college, and I'm sure I read this. I didn't remember how fucking, wow, how clear that is. Adhering to this expression of the supreme will of the nation in behalf of the rights of conscience, I shall see with sincere satisfaction the progress of those sentiments which tend to restore to man all his natural rights, convinced that he has no natural right in opposition to his social duties. I reciprocate your kind prayers and stuff. There you go. Yeah. The arguments, it's because it's in the letter, not the actual government policy, and so it shouldn't be allowed. This ignores the fact that it's just restating the First Amendment. It's not only doing that, but, like, constitutional lawyers and stuff use those letters to, like, understand the intent of the Constitution all the time. This is super normal. It's, it's very similar to, like, case law, where you see precedent being set. They go back to framers and talk about their intent.
And Thomas Jefferson was probably the most deistic and secular out of the Founding Fathers. But religiously...
No, I big disagree. They were actually, like, fucking full-on atheists in and around that Constitutional Congress.
Liberty for the Founding Fathers essentially meant, which Christian denomination do you want to be? It's basically, do you want to be Presbyterian, Episcopalian, or Congregationalist? That's what the vast majority of high-standing members in society at that time were. Maybe some of them were Unitarians, and maybe a few of them were Baptists, but generally the idea was America will always be a Christian
eyesight. What do you mean? Like...
nation. The Founding Fathers, even though not all of them were religious Christians themselves, they could not conceive of an America that was not a Christian nation.
I
so the
disagree.
desire for a Christian nation is...
I disagree. They didn't conceive of a Christian nation. They conceived of a nation filled with people of many beliefs, though not natives. They definitely did not want them. That would, stop their Western expansion in their grasp for wealth.
Rooted in Presbyterian history, and it is rooted in American history. If you listen to lectures by Bruce Gore, he demonstrates that the American Revolution would not have happened if it weren't for Presbyterian sermons. And the Presbyterian Westminster divines like Samuel Rutherford and George Gillespie really inspired the American Revolution in a lot of their writings. Samuel Rutherford has this writing called Lex Rex about how it's okay for nations to rebel against unjust rulers in very specific cases, and that really helped inspire the American Revolution. So you could argue America's not only a Christian nation, but it's a specifically Presbyterian nation.
I disagree because there was a Presbyterian present during the American Revolution that it's a Christian nation.
So the Scottish Covenanters, they wanted Scotland to be an explicitly Christian
Is Rutherford fucking alive right now, bro?
nation. And a lot of modern evangelicals, including a lot of modern Presbyterians, do not understand the importance of a united, established church for a country. The Scottish Presbyterian scholastics who wrote the Westminster Confession, the official confession of every Presbyterian denomination, they believed every nation should have one united, established church. And most modern Protestants, most modern evangelicals have completely forgotten the crucial importance of having one united, established church.
You naive boy. That gets in the way of their money, bro. This is about money. It's not about life or whatever. Saving souls. It's about money, bro. They're not trying to share their money, their bag with each other. Hell no. You're all Republicans. You're all capitalists.
It works wonders when you have a united, established church in your country. Let me ask you this.
That was the first slick shit I seen him do this whole game. Is he was like, damn, I'm ready for this boat.
Why don't non-denominationals or evangelical churches in general, why don't they build cathedrals? Why don't they?
What? Why don't they build cathedrals? For the reason I just said. It gets in the way of their money, bro.
Cathedrals just too Catholic? No. Traditional Protestants in Europe and America built cathedrals. Why don't they? It's because they're not united. It's because they're not united large organizations. They're just independent groups doing their own thing. They can't share the resources necessary to build a cathedral. You know, sharing resources is a biblical principle in the book of Acts.
Commie.
The church had everything in common. They shared all their resources with each other. And it is very important for the church to be a large institution with a lot of resources so they can do great things for God's kingdom. Presbyterians believe in kingdom theology, that the role of the church is not just to save individual souls, but to spread God's kingdom here on earth. The church didn't just build cathedrals historically. The church, both Catholic and Protestant, which includes Presbyterian, built hospitals. Jesus said to heal the sick. Now, some of us might have miraculous healing powers, but, I mean, I'm not Pentecostal. I know I don't have miraculous healing powers. The church has traditionally followed Jesus' command to heal the sick by building hospitals. And there's a reason you don't see non-denominational churches building hospitals. It's not that they don't care about the sick. I mean, some of them are really Gnostic, and they think you just need to give the sick people the gospel, and then they're fine, and you don't need to care for their physical needs at all. But generally,
I'm glad that you disagree with faith healing.
The main reason is they don't have the resources necessary to build a hospital the way Christians used to. There's a reason most hospitals have the word saint on them. It's because traditionally, Christians were the ones building hospitals. The church also used to start universities. Right now, there's like an opposition between the church and science because a lot of scientists are anti-Christian.
Yeah, man. How do you have the dissonance? Why are they? Why are they anti-Christian? Go ahead. Tell me why. Because God's not real. God's not real. And reality doesn't lead you that way, man. It just doesn't. The science doesn't tell you that God's real.
And as a result, a lot of Christians have wrongly become anti-science. But the church used to be at the forefront of scientific achievement. How did they do that? Because the universities were all founded by the church. Like Oxford, Harvard, Yale, Brown, Princeton. All of these really top universities were originally founded by conservative, Bible-believing Christians. All of them except Oxford were founded by Protestants, because, you know, Oxford was founded before the Protestant Reformation.
Yeah, man. So here's what happens. You can't have an institution of learning and then have people learn and then have them keep their old beliefs when the old beliefs are incorrect. If the old beliefs were correct, they'd still have them. You know? We still have lots of old beliefs. Sun goes up, sun comes down. We're at the center of the universe. Humans are special. And we all have souls. Everyone knows it. Wait, what? We've learned stuff since then?
Oxford became Protestant after the Protestant Reformation. But even so, the church used to do that because it was an established, united institution that had the institutional power to do that. It works wonders. Like I said, when you have a united
what is he even doing?
Institution, for the church. So that is why it's important to have state churches. Yes, traditional
Is he just running around?
Presbyterians believe in state churches. That's why to this day, the Church of Scotland is Presbyterian. I know it's hard for Protestants these days to acknowledge this, but the Catholics are right that there should be just one united church. At least one in every country that has like a loose fellowship with each other. I think the Eastern Orthodox are more right about that.
You're wrong, actually. But because, like, not everyone's Christian, dude. So, rip.
The Catholics and Orthodox are right that there shouldn't be all these different denominations.
I don't understand. Well, first of all, there shouldn't be these other denominations because the Bible should be obviously true if it's true, right? Like, if the true things are true about the Bible, which is, of course, untrue, but if it was true, it would be impossible to misinterpret. No, there aren't, like, factions of evolution people, right? The best you can get is, like, theoretical physicists that have, like, theories, and some people like different theories more than others. Like, that's the best you can get with anything in science like that. This is crazy, dude.
I don't think they're right in saying that.
How do you not have any shaking in your belief when, like, even just the existence of other creeds within your religion is crazy to me? Like, how do you reconcile that?
That there is only one true church, but I think they are right in saying that there should be only one true church, that the church should be united. We see how much more cultural influence the Roman Catholic Church has these days than any of the Protestant denominations because they've stayed united when the Protestant denominations have split. And it's not essential to Protestantism to split because the Protestant denominations used to be united and powerful. That's why I gave all those examples of the Protestant churches founding the great universities back when they were more united, back before the mainline Protestant churches got hijacked. So, in Scotland, the Presbyterians wanted there to be one united Church of Scotland, and that church would be Presbyterian.
All right. You have until the 12-minute mark
Not
to say
all these
something
different
interesting.
denominations.
20 seconds.
Now, what do we do in America? Because maybe that worked for Scotland. But even though the founders
Oh, what do we do in America? That is interesting to me.
of America did want a Christian nation, they did... Okay, I'm back. So even though the Founding Fathers did want a Christian nation, technically, they didn't want there to be religious liberty.
There's not even bad guys on this map. He's his own worst enemy. It's on creative mode.
They didn't exactly want the government to favor one specific church institution. So, if state churches are so important, what do we do in America? Now, obviously, you could amend the Constitution to actually have a state church or something, but that's fantasy world. It's not realistic to do that. Traditionally, in America, mainline Protestant denominations filled the role that state churches in Europe did. They basically did everything that state churches did, minus the explicit endorsement of the government, but they had basically everything else. They founded universities. They founded hospitals. They were the ones having a massive cultural impact in society. It's thanks to mainline Protestant churches that the abolitionist movement succeeded. Like, in public school, you'll have all this propaganda that Christians are the reason slavery happened. No.
That's actually bullshit. Christians are definitely the reason slavery happened. There were some other people that that were other kinds of Christians that played a role in abolition as well, of course. Yeah. But definitely, Christians were at the fucking center of the slave trade. Portuguese Christians, Spanish ones, English ones, American. It's crazy, dude. It's an insane thing to say.
Slavery happened because slavery was everywhere in the world.
Christians were everywhere in the world. You're coping. This is a Christian invention. The Western slave trade? Christian invention. And it was specifically, this is like, so cope. Like, the divine right of man? Holy shit.
Christians were the first to abolish slavery. And, you know, I'm from New York.
The first to abolish slavery. They were the first to stop enslaving people? That's great. So that means that they started enslaving people to stop it, you know? Huh. We stopped doing a bad thing.
A lot in New York. Preachers in the 1850s, Presbyterian and Congregationalist preachers in New York, would tell their congregations to move to Kansas to crusade against slavery in Kansas. And that's why Kansas has so much of an abolitionist heritage, because there were a lot of Christian extremists.
What is this music?
Told their congregations to send people to move to Kansas. It was like a real crusade, and it was awesome. That's also why Kansas is full of RPCNA Presbyterian churches. RPCNA is a denomination that's directly descended from the Presbyterian Scottish Covenanters, and it's awesome. I learned a lot about them from Matthew Everhart, who is a Presbyterian pastor who recently started working as an adjunct professor at an RPCNA seminary in Pittsburgh.
There are bad guys in here.
The RPCNA is a small conservative denomination, but they're technically mainline because they never...
Oh my god. All right. I'm going to skip forward.
They still had the massive administration of the sacraments and the exercise of church discipline. But ideally, the church should have a transformative kingdom impact on the world. You know, the job of the church is...
Why do you want kingdoms, man? This is so silly. He hasn't explained why he wants this. Just because it's Christianity? What material effect do you want to happen?
Is not just to save individual souls, it's to participate in God's work of new creation in this world. We're not just supposed to sit around and wait until Jesus comes back. That's what the apostles did right after the ascension, but the angels told them to get to work. And the church is supposed to work in the world for God's kingdom, and the way it's supposed to do that is by having the nations submit to Christ.
Okay, but the people don't want to. What is submitting to Christ? So being a Christian, that's stupid.
Nations collectively should submit to Christ, and that's why it's important for the church to be united. So the church...
They should submit to Christ, and that's why it's important? What the fuck? What does that even fucking mean, man? They should submit to Christ, and that's why it's important. That's not a description of its importance whatsoever, just that it is. Something that you say should happen.
Can speak to the nation and tell the nation how to submit to Christ. So, because we lost the mainline Protestant institutions to liberalism, the church has never been the same ever since then. And I don't think
liberalism?
The church can be the same until we retrieve back the influence that those denominations had.
Dude.
Now, how are we going to do that exactly?
See ya.
It's not going to be easy.
See ya.
I didn't say it was going to be easy.
You're dead.
Now, one option is we could, try and make the government a Christian theocracy or something, and we could try to amend the Constitution to make it a Christian nation.
That's right.
Or we could retake the mainline Protestant churches. The idea behind Reconquista, the idea behind retaking the mainline Protestant church...
Retaking them? What does that even mean? What does retaking them mean?
Is this traditional Presbyterian assumption that it's very important for there to be
get some shaders, dude.
Established church for the nation, and for the nation collectively to submit to Christ. And because America traditionally has not had one state church, the alternative to that has been these mainline Protestant denominations. I don't think you can revive a nation without reviving the central church of that nation. The central church of Scotland is the Church of Scotland.
Teach me, Daddy!
So you admit that the Constitution, as it does not establish the country, is Christian, right?
The Church of England is the Church of England. The Central Church of Italy is the Roman Catholic Church. And the Central Church of America has been the mainline Protestant churches. So I think there is no hope for America unless we retake the mainline Protestant churches. So now I'm going to speed this up while I figure out how to get out of this weird, creepy cave.
Can you believe he doesn't have many developed ideas? I guess, I'm asking for more here, but I'm not going to get it. I'm asking for way too much if I want him to have some kind of, fucking clue, Misinformed Zoomer. He's just so bad. Anyone who digs straight down in Minecraft doesn't use as much as their brains they should.